So if you want to know if a man is lying to you, watch to see if he suddenly freezes.
Right, just totally locks down.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But if you want to know if a woman is lying to you, watch to see if she suddenly starts, like, intensely organizing her desk, or maybe wiping down a spotless counter, or just furiously checking her phone.
It's such a fascinating difference.
It really is. So welcome to the Deep Dives. Today, we're jumping into a really incredible 2023 presentation by Abdulatif Al-Bustani. It's simply titled, How to Read People. And our mission today is basically to uncover the actual mechanics of human deception.
Yeah, and it's essentially a masterclass in kinesics, which, if you're not familiar, is the academic study of how our body motions relate to our communication.
Right.
But I want to be clear, we aren't just talking about, crossing your arms when you feel defensive.
Yeah, the basic stuff.
Exactly. We are looking at what's called kinesic leakage. Because the central premise of this presentation is that humans are actually just terrible at keeping secrets.
Which is kind of hilarious.
It is, because, while our words can very easily construct a lie, our nervous system is just constantly betraying our true current status.
I love looking at it through that lens, the body's betrayal. Because usually when you are sitting across from someone in a meeting or even just having coffee with a partner and every alarm bell in your head is ringing.
You just have that gut feeling.
Exactly, this vague intuition that something is just off. And today, we're going to turn that vague intuition into a conscious mechanical skill for you.
Yeah, let's get into the mechanics of that leakage.
So, Al-Bustani's research suggests it is almost impossible to completely hide your true emotional status. But, I have to ask, is that actually true?
Well,
Because it seems like highly trained people, like politicians or hostage negotiators, they hide their feelings all the time. Do we really just leak the truth by default?
we actually do, yeah. And it really all comes down to sequence.
What do you mean?
So when you experience an emotion or when you formulate a lie, it triggers a physiological response in your autonomic nervous system. And this happens milliseconds before your conscious brain even has a chance to filter it.
Oh, wow. So you can't even stop it.
Right. You experience this spike in cortisol, your heart rate shifts, your muscles prepare for action. And sure, a highly trained negotiator might be able to suppress the larger, more obvious physical tells.
Like they aren't going to start sweating profusely or stammering.
Exactly. But that physical tension, it has to go somewhere.
It makes me think of trying to hold a giant, fully inflated beach ball underwater.
Oh, that's a great analogy.
Right, because
Yeah.
you can use all of your upper body strength to push it down and hold it there for a little bit, but eventually your arms get tired or the water shifts, and that beach ball is going to just violently pop up to the surface.
Yeah, it pops up in the form of a twitch or a weird glance or just a shift in posture.
Right.
And interestingly, the data shows it is much easier to analyze the body language of young people.
Really? Why is that?
Because children haven't spent decades building the muscular endurance to hold that beach ball underwater, so to speak.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah, they experience the physiological spike, and their bodies just instantly broadcast it. Adults are just better at masking the initial spike, which is why we really have to look for the micro movements.
Which actually brings us back to that counterintuitive hook about the gender divide.
Yeah, the presentation outlines that deception manifests quite differently depending on gender.
And it says faking body language is actually easier with men than with women.
It is. When men lie, the tell is usually more observable. Like you said earlier, they might become unnaturally still.
Right, physically locking themselves down to prevent the beach ball from surfacing.
Exactly. But women use a completely different mechanism, which is behavioral misdirection.
Behavioral misdirection. Okay, break that down for me.
So this is where kinesics gets deeply psychological. If a man's instinct is to freeze to avoid detection, the female instinct, generally speaking, is often to create a physical distraction.
So like the cleaning thing.
Yeah, think about the cognitive load required to lie. Your brain is just working overtime to construct a false narrative, monitor the other person's reaction, and suppress your own anxiety all at once.
That's a lot of bandwidth.
Right. So organizing paper clips or wiping a counter or suddenly digging through a purse, it serves a dual purpose. First, it breaks eye contact and connection with the person they are deceiving, but without looking explicitly suspicious.
Right, it's like, I can't possibly be lying to you. Look how intensely I'm focused on realigning my keyboard right now.
Precisely. And second, it acts as a physical grounding mechanism.
How so?
It burns off the anxious, kinetic energy of the lie through this seemingly productive, mundane task. It's not just about being tidy, it's literally a subconscious pressure release valve for the nervous system.
Man, that reframes so many interactions for me.
That's absolutely.
Like imagine you ask a vendor a tough question about a missed deadline, and they suddenly find this invisible speck of dust on their laptop screen to just aggressively scratch at.
Yes. They're burning off the cognitive load of formulating that excuse.
Wow. Okay, so if physical movement is the pressure valve, what is the actual gauge? Like, where do we look to see what the brain is actually processing in real time?
Well, the most bandwidth-heavy leak on the human body is the eyes.
The eyes.
Yeah, Al-Bustani refers to them as the window of the soul, but honestly, a more accurate mechanical term would be a cognitive loading screen.
Oh, I love that. Like
Yeah.
when you hear your computer's fan spin up, and you can just tell the processor is suddenly working incredibly hard on some complex problem behind the scenes.
Exactly that. The eyes do the exact same thing.
So let's map this out for everyone listening, because the source provides a literal geographical map to how our eyes dart when we think.
They do, and to visualize this, you have to imagine you are looking at the person you are analyzing.
Okay. Let's start with the grand rule to anchor this.
Right, so the grand rule is left is the past and right is the fiction.
Left is the past, right is the fiction.
Okay, let's unpack the left side first. Sure, so if you ask someone a question and their eyes dart to their left, they are accessing stored memory. They are going into the archives.
But the height of that dart matters a lot, right?
It matters immensely. It reveals the specific sensory archive they are opening. So if their eyes dart to the upper left, they are engaged in visual and event recall.
Meaning.
The brain is literally trying to see a memory in their mind's eye. Like picturing the color of a car they walked past yesterday.
Okay, so upper left is like a movie playing in your head. What if the eyes dart horizontally, just straight to the middle left?
Middle left is auditory recall. So they aren't looking at a picture anymore, they're pulling up a sound file.
Like trying to remember what someone said.
Exactly. Trying to remember a specific snippet of a conversation, a tone of voice, maybe a piece of music.
Okay, so upper left is the movie, middle left is the voice memo. Now let's talk about the lower left.
Ah, lower left.
Yeah, because the presentation indicates this is internal dialogue. And I kind of have to push back on the utility of this one.
Okay, why is that?
Well, if I'm pitching an idea to my boss, right, and I catch them looking down and to the left, my immediate assumption is that they have just entirely checked out.
Yeah, that's fair.
Like, are they essentially just having a private conversation with themselves to tune me out?
See, that is a very common misinterpretation.
Really?
Yeah, it feels like a rejection, but mechanically, lower left indicates active internal processing. They are not necessarily ignoring you.
Okay.
Instead, the data you are giving them is triggering an internal monologue. They are filtering your pitch through their own voice, they're debating the merits, or cross-referencing it against their own biases.
Oh, wow. So they're actually engaged.
Yes, the focus has shifted inward, obviously, but it is often a sign of deep evaluation rather than dismissal.
Okay, well, that is a huge relief. So left is memory and internal processing. Now, let's cross the meridian. What happens when the eyes look to the right?
This is where we shift from recall to construction. Looking to the right indicates visualization or imagination of things that have never actually happened.
And this is why the right side of the map is basically your potential lie detector.
Exactly.
So imagine you ask an employee where they were during a crucial server outage last night.
Okay.
If they look upper right, they aren't searching the archives right, because
Yeah.
upper right specifically indicates visual construction.
Right. They are building an image that isn't a real memory. They are literally rendering a plausible location in their head before they speak.
The brain is acting as a rapid-fire architect.
That's exactly it. And if they look middle right, that is auditory construct.
Well, they're making up a sound.
Sort of. They are internally asking themselves, does this sound right? They are drafting a sentence or an excuse and testing the audio of it in their head to see if it sounds believable before they let it out of their mouth.
That is wild. Okay, so left is the past, right is the fiction. But wait, I have a scenario for you.
Sure.
What if I ask my partner what they want to do for our anniversary next month, and they look upper right? I shouldn't automatically assume they're lying to me, right?
No, definitely not.
Because they were just visualizing a potential future.
Right, and that is a crucial distinction. Constructing an image isn't always deceptive. Imagination is completely necessary for planning.
So it's all about context.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The key is context. If you ask a question that requires a historical fact, like, where were you last night? And they look to the construction side, the right side, that is a massive red flag.
Right.
But if you ask a question about the future, looking right is perfectly natural.
Okay, so the darting gives us the cognitive map.
Hmm.
But what about the physical mechanics of the eye itself? Because the presentation gets into blink rates and pupil dilation.
Yes, it does.
What is the actual biological mechanism behind pupil dilation when we are just interacting with someone?
Well, we usually think of pupils purely in terms of light intake, right? Like they dilate in the dark and constrict in bright sunlight.
Yeah, that's what we learned in school.
Right. But they're also tied directly to your sympathetic nervous system. Yeah, when you look at something or someone that you are deeply interested in, aroused by, or just really happy to see, your brain demands more visual data.
It wants to see more of it.
Exactly. So the autonomic nervous system physically forces the pupils to widen to pull in as much information about that pleasing stimulus as possible.
And conversely, if you are looking at something you dislike
Yeah.
or you are deeply sad, the pupils physically narrow
Right.
because your brain is literally trying to restrict the amount of negative visual data entering your system. You are subconsciously shutting the blinds.
That's exactly what's happening. And blinking operates on a similar stress response axis.
Okay, how so?
Rapid blinking is the beach ball popping up. It indicates distress or extreme discomfort. The person is basically trying to physically flutter away the tension.
Oh, that makes sense. What about when people barely blink at all?
Infrequent blinking is often far more deliberate. If someone is staring with an unnaturally low blink rate, they are usually trying to purposely control their eye movements to lock down the data leaks.
Like manually overriding the system.
Yeah, they are manually overriding an autonomic function to pretend they are unexcited, or maybe to mask deep, concentrated thought.
You see this in poker players all the time. That unnerving, unblinking stare.
Exactly.
There are also these fascinating, almost primitive physical tells involving the eyes in the presentation. Like if someone is subtly scratching the corner of their eye or fully closing their eyes while listening to you.
Oh yeah, that is them broadcasting disapproval.
It is the physical manifestation of rejection.
It is. Their brain doesn't like the audio data it is receiving, so it attempts to just shut down the visual receptors to compensate.
And if the person wears glasses, you have a whole secondary layer of physical manipulation to watch.
Right. Adjusting the frames is often a focusing mechanism. It indicates increased concentration on what you are saying.
But what about dropping the chin and looking at you from over the top of the eyeglasses?
That is a universal signal of negative evaluation. The brain is attempting to literally look down on the speaker, which signals disbelief or underestimation.
Man, okay, so if the eyes are the lie detector, the eyebrows are kind of like the volume knob, right?
I like that, yeah.
They tell you how intensely that lie or truth is being felt. So if the eyes are the initial point of leakage, how does that tension travel down the rest of the face?
Well, the eyebrows are the emotional highlighters. Let's look at lowered eyebrows first. Al-Bustani's research links lowered brows to deception or annoyance.
Okay,
But the mechanism changes dramatically based on horizontal tension.
what does that mean?
If the brows are simply lowered, it's just a closed-off annoyance.
Hmm.
But if they are lowered and pushed together in the middle like a furrowed brow, you are looking at anger, frustration, or intense, aggressive concentration.
The muscle contraction is physically shielding the eyes.
Yes.
And what about raised eyebrows?
Raised eyebrows widen the visual field. They indicate disbelief, surprise, or interest. The higher they go, the more data the brain is trying to suddenly take in.
Right.
Interestingly, raising the brows and widening the eyes is also a primal sign of submissiveness. It's that classic deer in headlights look. Oh, wow.
Yeah, by fully exposing the eyes, you are universally signaling, I am harmless, I am not hiding anything, please do not attack.
Let's talk about the eyebrow flash, though. That quick half-second up and down movement.
Ah, the flash.
Because the research notes this usually indicates recognition or greeting. Like you see an old colleague across the lobby, you give the eyebrow flash.
Right.
But it can also indicate sudden disagreement on a point. So how do you tell the difference between someone greeting you and someone violently disagreeing with your pitch? Because they are the exact same muscular movement.
They are, and this is where you have to look at the leakage spread.
The leakage spread.
Yeah, the eyebrow flash happens because the brain experiences a sudden jolt and demands immediate maximum visual data for a fraction of a second.
Okay.
If that jolt is pleasant, like seeing an old friend, the flash is accompanied by a relaxation of the lower face.
But if it's negative?
If the jolt is negative, like hearing a terrible idea in a meeting, the flash will be accompanied by a tightening of the jaw or the lips. Which brings us perfectly to the mouth. What is the physiological mechanism behind tight or pursed lips?
It is a literal lockdown mechanism.
like barricading the doors.
Exactly. When a person hears something they deeply dislike, distrust, or disapprove of, the body's instinct is to seal off the entry and exit points.
So by tightening the lips, the brain is subconsciously building a physical barricade to keep the negative thoughts from spilling out.
Yes, and also to prevent any more of the threatening idea from getting in.
And biting the bottom lip is similar, right? Except it's not a barricade, it's more of a self-soothing behavior.
Right. When someone is worried or stressed, biting the lip provides a physical sensation, a mild pain or pressure. That acts as an outlet for nervous energy. It grounds them.
But here is the facial expression that I honestly find to be the most confusing. The tight-lipped smile.
Oh, yeah.
Because the presentation states that a tight-lipped smile can indicate an insincere smile, or it can indicate being genuinely interested. That is the ultimate context paradox. How can the exact same facial expression mean both I am faking this and I am deeply engaged?
It is a paradox, but only if you only look at the mouth.
Okay, what else am I looking at?
Well, a tight-lipped smile is simply a smile where the teeth remain hidden. If someone is intensely interested in your complex presentation, they might offer a tight-lipped smile because a full, teeth-bearing grin would be socially inappropriate or wildly distracting.
Right, they were just signaling polite, contained engagement.
Exactly.
So how do you spot the deceptive, insincere version of that exact same mouth shape?
You have to look for the Duchenne marker.
The Duchenne marker.
Yes, which happens up at the eyes. A genuine smile involves the involuntary contraction of the orbicularis oculi muscle. That's the muscle that creates the crinkles or crow's feet at the corners of the eyes.
Oh, like smizing.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing is, we cannot consciously flex this muscle easily. So, if the mouth turns up into a tight smile, but the skin around the eyes remains perfectly smooth and uncrinkled, you are looking at a biological fake.
Because the brain is commanding the mouth to smile for social survival. But the autonomic nervous system just refuses to fire the eye muscles because the joy isn't real.
Precisely.
The mouth can lie, but the corners of the eyes cannot. That's brilliant.
It really is.
I also want to touch on covering the mouth. Because we see children do this all the time. They tell a lie and immediately slap both hands over their mouths.
It's so transparent.
Right. But as adults, we evolve this into a subtle clearing of the throat, or maybe touching the nose. But the impulse is the same, isn't it?
It is exactly the same impulse. Subconsciously, the hand comes up to act as a physical barrier to block the deceptive words from escaping. It's amazing how literal our subconscious can be.
We never truly outgrow those primal physical mechanisms. We just learn to disguise them slightly better.
That is very true.
Okay, so we've mapped the internal cognitive loading screen of the eyes. We've decoded the emotional volume knobs of the face. Let's pull back from distant observation and look at what happens when two people actually make physical contact.
The handshake.
Yes, the handshake. Because in the professional world, this is almost exclusively how we make contact.
A handshake is literally a silent negotiation of hierarchy that takes place before a single word is ever spoken.
Right. And the baseline, of course, is the equal handshake. Hands are perfectly vertical. The grip pressure is matched.
Which signals alike mindsets. Both individuals are physically agreeing to enter the interaction as peers.
But the presentation also details the power dynamic of the over versus under grip.
Yes, the superior handshake.
Right, where one person twists the grip so their palm is facing downward, placing their hand physically over the other person's. It's this blatant attempt to establish dominance and control.
It is.
Now, I have to challenge the real-world application of this today.
Okay, go ahead.
Because in a modern, highly collaborative corporate environment, especially one where remote work has made physical contact pretty rare, does aggressive alpha male posturing, like an overhand dominant grip, actually assert dominance?
That's a valid question.
Because to me, it just makes you look socially out of touch, like a villain in a 1980s Wall Street movie.
I mean, you aren't wrong. It is definitely archaic, and consciously deploying it can backfire terribly in modern settings.
Right.
However, you really cannot ignore the primitive psychology of human touch.
Okay, what do you mean?
Even if it is subtle, when someone forces your hand into a palm-up inferior position, your brain registers the spatial dominance. The open palm facing up is a universally recognized primal sign of submission.
Oh, because it literally originated as a way to show you were not holding a weapon.
Exactly.
Yep.
So when you accept the hand under position in a handshake, even in a modern boardroom, your nervous system is subconsciously conceding a degree of subservience.
Wow. So if a new client subtly twist your hand downward during the introduction, they are silently claiming the territory.
They are?
And your biological response will either be to subconsciously submit or to feel an instant vague friction because your body recognizes the power play, even if your conscious mind missed it.
Precisely. And honestly, that is the ultimate value of understanding kinesics. It takes that vague friction, that gut feeling that something is off, and gives you the specific vocabulary to identify exactly what is happening.
So imagine stepping into your next meeting armed with this. You are no longer just listening to the audio track of the conversation, you are actually reading the underlying code.
Yeah, you see the whole picture.
You know that if your client's eyes dart up or right when asked about a budget, they are constructing fiction. You know that if their lips disappear into a tight, uncrinkled smile, they are engaging a physical lockdown mechanism against your idea.
And you know exactly what is at stake the moment your hands physically meet.
You are equipped to see the invisible language that is constantly being spoken around you.
It's powerful stuff.
It really is. And I want to leave you, the listener, with a final, slightly provocative thought to mull over.
Oh, I love these.
Now that you understand the exact biological mechanics behind these movements, how the brain constructs a lie, how the eyes map the past, how the muscles crinkle in true joy, what would happen if you actively tried to reverse engineer your own leakage?
Oh, wow.
Right. In your next high-stakes conversation, if you purposely force your eyes to dart up or left to simulate deep visual recall when you're asked a difficult question.
Or if you intentionally manually flex the corners of your eyes to simulate a Duchenne smile.
Exactly. Do you become the ultimate, perfectly controlled communicator? Or does the cognitive load of managing your own nervous system become so heavy that you just end up looking robotic, inauthentic, and hopelessly distracted?
Honestly, it is the ultimate test of trying to hold the beach ball underwater. The harder you focus on the mechanics of the illusion, the more likely something else is going to violently leak to the surface.
The body always wins.
It always does.
Yeah. So try observing the room this week. Watch for the leakage, but maybe don't try to manually pilot your own eyebrows just yet. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Keep your eyes open and keep decoding the world around you.